Three, two, one, and we're rolling.
Uh-huh. We're live.
Welcome, and we're live. Welcome back to Girls Gone Spooky. I'm Olivia,
And I'm Amy. And
and
this is
Amy's birthday was yesterday.
yeah, it was my birthday. I'm
More
29.
importantly, yes, she's
And
our little baby angel,
yeah,
the
I'm
elder,
old.
the elder of this duo.
Yeah, by 1 month precisely
Exactly.
on the dot.
I know. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, but
Yay. Well, happy birthday to Amy.
yay.
Yeah, welcome back. Episode 6 of season 2. We're at the very tail end of our spooky summer programming. So, today is going to be around haunted parks. And
Yay.
I'm actually really excited because some of mine are creepy AF.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of surprised by what
Me
I
too.
found for these.
Me
So yeah,
too. Me
I'm
too.
excited. Let's hear
Okay,
it.
should we just jump in?
Yes, I'm
All right,
ready.
let's go. Okay, so I wanted to just, okay, first of all, the day this airs, 44 days into the
Oh
fall.
yeah, that's
So
important.
know that. Know that.
I'm ready to watch Hocus Pocus, do my
I'm
first
literally,
watch
I'm literally gonna
because
watch it tonight.
I was gonna do that last night, but then we got
So
back
funny.
late from my
Oh
birthday stuff.
man.
So yeah, maybe tonight's the night.
Tonight's the night. Every night is a Hocus Pocus kind of night. And I just
Yeah.
read, actually, I'll send you, I just read this really cute article about like Bette Midler, Kathy Najimy, and Sarah Jessica Parker talking about, and actually the guy, Doug Jones, who plays Billy Butcherson,
Mhm.
all of them talking about like the revival and coming back together and revisiting these characters. For a
Oh,
lot of them, these are like their favorite characters like they've ever played, which is
wow.
so crazy because these are like big stars now, you know?
Yeah, they've done a lot since
A
then.
lot. And I think
Wow.
Doug Jones was actually the Shape of Water creature,
Oh wow.
which is
I
like
had no
so
idea.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I'll
Fascinating.
send you the articles. I think it's no, it's not entertainment. I think it's just entertainment, like Entertainment Magazine. So I'll send it
Okay.
to you because it's really sweet and like hearing them talk
Mhm.
about it. And they give you, there are no spoilers or anything, but they give you like a sneak peek into like what the storyline is going to be about.
Mm.
And it's like very different from the original. And they talk about how they were like really collaborating on the script and all that stuff. So I'm
Oh,
so
cool. I can't
I
wait.
can't wait. Okay, so haunted parks, everyone. Okay, I wanted to make a nod to one that I mentioned a couple weeks ago in our haunted water episode, which was the White Lady of Stowe Lake, which is in
Mhm.
Golden Gate Park. Yes, haunted water,
Mhm.
I said it. Um,
Still
Golden
cracks
Gate
me up.
Park in my home zone, San Francisco. So there's of course a White Lady, because what else?
Mhm. Of
Um,
course.
so we're going to leave that one, but I just wanted to give an honorable mention to that one,
Mhm.
despite it
Yep.
not being featured.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna start in Germany, and then we're kind of gonna
Mm.
like bop around some other places, mainly in the U.S. I think
Cool.
Nebraska and Florida primarily. So
Ooh.
starting in Berlin, these are all like pretty quick ones, but I just like
Mhm.
some of them are really like interesting. This one is probably my favorite. So
Okay.
it's called, I'm gonna butcher this, so German speakers, I'm so sorry. Frauen, Fraueninsel in Berlin. It
Sounds
means
right.
peacock. Yeah, yeah, thank you. It
Mhm.
means Peacock Island, and it's a historical park located southwest of Berlin. And it's like has this beautiful like picturesque architecture. There's a ton of like kind of forest zone. There's a ton of wildlife. People do like wildlife like hikes and stuff. It's like very serene seeming. But it has this like
Mhm.
really kind of dark history. So there was an
Mhm.
alchemist in the 17th century named Johann Kunkel, which like is the most German name I have ever
Yeah.
heard.
Truly.
And he was said to have experimented with, I mean, he's an alchemist, so said to have experimented with black magic in his lab that was located on the island. And he actually, the island, there was an explosion, or sorry, not the island, the lab. There was an explosion and the lab was destroyed. And I think he left to like Sweden or somewhere else in Europe. But it said that when he died, because of the like dark magic he practiced in his life, like
Mhm.
cursed him in the afterlife. And
Mhm.
so a lot of people claim that they claim to see him in the form of a black figure with glowing red eyes right at the stroke of midnight, which is
Whoa.
just how terrifying that would be. I would be,
Yeah.
oh, creeped out. Also, why are
Uh-huh.
you in a creepy haunted park after
Yeah.
dark and at
Yeah.
midnight? Like,
Mhm.
no, no.
Yeah. No.
Okay, so that's the first one, and I just like love how like
Yeah.
historical and spooky it is.
I feel like I can just picture that in my
Yeah, I
mind,
know.
what it looks
Same,
like.
same. I'll definitely post a photo of this one for our Instagram post because it's like
Okay.
really eerie looking because it's like kind of this
Mhm.
like I said, there's architecture. There's was like this like building just like in the middle of this heavily wooded area. It's
Yeah.
really like creepy
Ooh.
looking.
Yeah, I wanna see.
Um, okay, the next one is also in Germany in Osnabrück,
Mhm.
Kirchlangern Forest. I
Uh-huh.
mean, sounds kind of
Spot
believable,
on.
right?
Yep.
Says the one with zero
Yeah.
authority on German accent. Well, we're on the
No.
same page. So if
Uh-huh.
you're a linguist, so if you buy it, I'm here for it.
No,
So
I'm sure not.
so okay, so it's so I to be fair, I was like a little tricky with like parks and forests. A lot of these places have parks in the vicinity, but it's like a part of a larger forest. So
Mhm.
I'm just kind of using them interchangeably.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fine.
so it's this like super beautiful space during the daytime. But even during the day, this isn't like a nighttime creeps only situation. A lot of people who spend time there experience these like common feelings of panic, having this like sense that like something dark is watching them.
Mm.
Um, and animals are known to go missing in the forest.
Oh, weird.
And then their bloody remains are found days later.
Oh, no.
So it's like, of course, there could be some wildlife in
Mhm.
the forest that's like coming out because like people take their dogs and stuff on walks and they
Yeah.
go missing.
Mhm.
And it's like, I think that I was reading a couple things that people were saying that it's not just like people who bring their pets into the park and like let them go off leash, but like pets will run away in the
Mm.
surrounding area and then be found like their bloody remains. So it's like, what's like
Yeah,
kind of like
luring
attracting
them.
them? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really creepy.
that is
Um, yeah. So yeah, very creepy. So that's the last of the Germany ones.
it's definitely a
This one,
werewolf, right?
right? I mean, that's kind of that was when I first thought.
Must
I was like,
be.
werewolf, definitely a
Yeah,
werewolf.
a werewolf.
Um, a Viv, yeah, definitely a werewolf.
Uh-huh.
We're such dicks. I love
That
it.
proves my authority on German,
A werewolf.
pronunciation.
Honestly, yeah, I'm here for
Yep.
it.
Mhm.
Okay, this one is a story pulled off of Reddit, and they didn't want to specify exactly where it was, but it's in the Midwest in the US. So
Okay.
there's a park slash walking trail that this is coming directly from the Redditor. So there's a park or walking trail not too far from my old house, which was honestly pretty like unremarkable during the day, but as soon as like you're nearing dusk or evening time, things get really creepy there, especially after dark to the point where even like the cops who patrol that area at night will carry a Bible with them,
Oh, weird.
which really creeps me out.
Uh-huh.
So also like how Midwestern and like
Yeah.
kind of quaint.
That's true.
um, So they add a quick side note that this walking trail is really big, and there are small playgrounds scattered throughout the trails. So there are like houses around the outside of the trails, but like kind of in that property. Their house wasn't there. They were like thankfully because it was
Mhm.
fucking creepy. And this story they're relaying from their younger siblings and about their first dog too. So they said that like the only thing that happened to them personally was there were multiple times the dog got out from the backyard due to just kids would like open the backyard gate and run away and just like be little shits. So they'd have to chase after her, and their dog whose name is Frisbee, which is so
Oh,
cute.
that is
Um,
cute.
yeah, loved going to the park to play. So we knew that she was going to beeline straight to that park. And of course, like she had to, or this, yeah, I think she had to like chase Frisbee into the park. Usually it was during the day.
Mhm.
Um, and the like creepy vibe hadn't really like started yet. But yeah, so okay, back to the actual story. So the original poster, the OP said that I wasn't home. I'd gone on a camping trip with our church youth group. Again, quaint.
Yep.
And it was very late at night. It was like probably midnight or maybe later, like wee hours of the morning. And Frisbee was barely a year old at the time, so still a puppy. Really had to go out and wouldn't like quiet down. So her younger sister Molly, who sleeps in the basement, I guess, or slept in the basement, heard Frisbee whimpering, gets up, lets Frisbee outside into the backyard, and after a few minutes, Frisbee doesn't come back to the like backyard or sliding door to the yard, and so Molly opens the door to look for Frisbee and sees that the backyard gate is wide open, which like
Mhm.
already dislike.
Mhm.
So immediately Molly goes to wake up the younger brother. So it's, yeah, it seems like older sister, middle sister Molly, youngest brother Vivi, they call him.
Mhm.
He's she's like he's the only one who can actually keep pace with Frisbee when Frisbee's like flat out sprinting. So they grabbed flashlights and went to go looking for Frisbee. And like thank God Molly didn't go out there by herself, like when
Yeah,
it's so creepy, even if it
that's
wasn't
smart.
like a chase kind of like strategy, but yeah.
Mhm.
So the first place they checked for Frisbee was the neighbor's house, hoping that she had just crossed the street to go play with the dog that lived at the neighbor's house, but she wasn't there. And they could hear her suddenly yelping from a block away in the direction
Mhm.
of the park. So Molly heads that way and they start like sprinting in the direction of her yelping. And when they're like a block away from the park, Vivi suddenly stops and looks around and tells Molly, like, I can hear something moving around us. But Molly's like, just ignore it. It's probably like a raccoon or a skunk or whatever. Like, let's hurry and find Frisbee. Like, she's making this horrible crying noise.
Mhm.
So after a few more minutes of searching, they find her in the park, and she was completely exhausted at this point after running all the way there. So Molly and Vivi sprint over to Frisbee to pick her up. And again, Vivi starts scanning the area because he could hear something moving around them. So he starts like shining the flashlight in the bushes, and everything around them, you know, with the flashlights, he was holding both and was just trying to see, like, what am I hearing? Molly
Mhm.
at this one is now also hearing these sounds around them and is holding Frisbee and is like, Vivi, we're fucking running. Like, let's get out of here. This is creepy. They run all the way back home, lock the doors behind them. But for the rest of the night, Frisbee like did not make another sound. She was probably exhausted. But a couple months later, when the OP was told this story after Frisbee escaped the yard again, the siblings were like, "Oh, well, we didn't tell you about this time." Again, wasn't dark, so she didn't experience anything super creepy. But
Mhm.
the mom says that when she was driving her home from college, that two joggers were jogging on the trail near the lakeside of the park and found a young man who had killed himself,
Mhm.
like hung himself. um and so that the it sounds like the thought is like that person's spirit was maybe haunting the
Mhm.
area,
Mhm.
and or there's just something kind of dark there. I mean, we've talked about this so much about like, Slender Man, like, and all that, like entities like pushing people to like harm themselves and stuff like that. I don't know, there's just
Yeah.
something like really weird about it.
Yeah.
um so yeah, that was that one. I don't know exactly where it was, but yeah, like I said, somewhere in the
Mhm.
Midwest.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, that
Bad
one was
vibes.
creepy. Bad vibes. Yeah, just like that, like rustling. I don't know. It gives me like a
Mm.
Skinwalker vibe, to be
Mhm.
honest. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Ooh, I don't know.
Something mysterious.
Something
Ooh.
mysterious. Okay, so this next one is in like the Dallas Fort Worth area in Texas, and it's very short. And the beginning just made me laugh because I was like, dude, was playing with a pendulum at a haunted park with a friend. Like, what?
Uh-huh.
Bad start. Saw a baby cow, but never heard it walk up. I looked at my friend and then looked back up and saw this, and they posted a drawing of it. And then they said, and my friend, of course, saw it too. This was back in 2019. could this possibly be a skinwalker? So then this whole comment
Uh-huh.
thread goes on, and people are like, I'm sorry, you thought that was a baby cow? Like, are you insane? That is absolutely a skinwalker.
Uh-huh.
That's terrifying. What did it look like? Because they just sketched it with like a black pen. So it had leathery black skin that was almost like reflecting like a dark blue color, and it was full on like moving and like moving towards us. And I guess the friend was like, "Oh fuck," and they were just like, "Oh shit," because they hadn't heard it come up, and so they thought it was just some sort of like animal, obviously
Mhm.
a baby cow. Like, are you insane?
Yeah.
Um, and at the time, they never even heard the OP had never even heard of a skinwalker. So it wasn't until the next year in 2020 that they heard of them, and then it was like, oh fuck, is that what that
Yeah.
was?
Hmm.
They said they haven't seen anything at that park since, but like the park is already known to be haunted, so it's like, well, that's
Hmm.
not that
Could have been.
shocking.
Yeah.
Could have been.
Well, I feel like
Yeah,
they've never seen a
creepy.
baby cow.
Absolutely not.
That's what it
Yeah,
sounds like.
absolutely fucking not. um yeah, absolutely
Hmm.
not. um okay, so mm, the next one is Nebraska. It's a park called Hummel Park, and
Mhm.
it's kind of notorious for a few things. It allegedly was a trading ground between, yeah, a trading post or trading grounds between the French and the indigenous people back in
Mhm.
that time. It's also said to be, so, there probably was some violence that occurred there at some point historically. It's also
Yeah.
said to be, and it's hard to tell if this is like an urban legend thing or if this is like actually true, that it has historically, not historically, but in modern times been used as like a known like dumping ground for
Mm.
bodies of like murder victims.
Yeah.
So they have like recovered bodies there. So I don't know if it's like they recovered one and then someone spun it out into like an urban legend kind of
Yeah.
thing, or if it really was like, no, like
Many
people dump
bodies.
dead
Yeah.
bodies. Yeah. But it's said to be the most haunted park in all of Nebraska.
Mm.
And similar to the others, it's like very foresty. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting. So it's honestly looks really beautiful. I don't really know, like, I don't know. Looking at the photos, I was like, oh, that's what Nebraska looks like. Like, I just imagine like plains kind of, but it's
Yeah.
actually more wooded than I thought. Maybe that's just because this is, a
Yeah.
forest in the park. But
No,
um,
Nebraska is a surprise. I've driven through there.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
pretty.
that's right. Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I was shocked.
It almost looks, I feel like these photos must have been taken in like the fall. It looks, or like
Mm.
maybe like fall to winter. It looks almost like like New England kind of during that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really pretty.
Interesting.
So the park is named after J.B. Hummel, who's a longtime superintendent of the Omaha Parks and Rec Department, which I was like, that's actually like really sort of cute.
Yeah.
Um, Heartwarming tribute that has kind of a sinister history. So it was a trading ground, like I said, between the French and the indigenous at the time. It's also rumored to potentially be a burial ground, like an
Mm.
indigenous burial ground, possibly.
Mhm.
So that obviously comes with a whole slew of concerns. Visitors often feel something really unsettling. It has really steep hills, really deep ravines, winding dirt roads. So it's already just kind of like eerie and isolating and kind of like severe in terms of the landscape.
Mm. Yeah.
And there are actually a lot of really like physically dangerous, like the topography is kind of dangerous. So for example, there's a scenic overlook at the eastern edge of the park which has been dubbed Devil's Slide because there are so many suicides that have taken place
Mm.
there. And it seems almost like suicides obviously would be on record, but also probably just accidents because I mean, it literally looks like you could just easily slip. It's really
Yeah.
eroded. So the area just doesn't have any like trees or natural barriers. So there's sudden drop offs that will kind of like the edges kind of crumble under your feet. So I can see
Mm.
people like, I'm
Yeah.
sure there have been accidents.
Right.
Um, it's believed that the forest canopy was actually used as, it was like the site of a lot of lynchings that occurred in the early
Mm.
1900s. So it's just has like a really dark
Yeah.
history.
Mhm.
Um, Many believe that the woods are haunted primarily as a result of this and possibly also as a result of the indigenous burial ground. Um, park visitors obviously have that kind of creepy vibe, which, could or could not be something paranormal, but people
Yeah.
will hear screams and cries coming from like the tree tops late at
Oh,
night.
weird.
Yeah, very creepy. There's also an abandoned shelter at the park, which is believed to be, this is a quote, a bastion of biblical heresy. Um, there are spray painted markings like inverted pentagrams, along with
Mm.
an unusual amount of dead animal carcasses.
Oh,
So people believe that Hummel Park was and maybe still is a center for satanic rituals and like
hmm,
occult practices. But
interesting.
one of the most pervasive rumors about Humble Park involves a seemingly innocuous staircase. At the top of the stairs, at the top of the park, there's a long stone staircase known as the Morphing Stairs, which is funny because we've talked about stairs like in the
Yeah.
woods already, but
Hmm.
this is weird. The stairs are said to morph because it's hard to pinpoint the exact number of stairs in the staircase. So each
Oh,
time a person counts the number going up and down, a different number seems to be calculated on the return trip,
whoa. That's
which
weird.
really, like, I would not want to walk on those stairs. I'd be like,
No.
I'm good. I will scale this hill.
Yeah.
I will scrabble up
Yeah.
this hill. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um, Romeo, my dog is whining. Romeo, hey,
Oh,
buddy, can you hear him?
I could hear him, yeah, a little bit.
Sounds so pathetic,
Did your mom leave?
buddy.
Is that
Yeah, she went for a walk.
oh.
Um, dude, hey, God damn it.
You're
So
interrupting.
obviously, I know you're interrupting our podcast. Um, yeah, so it's just like super, super creepy, beautiful, beautiful, but also just a lot of weird, weird history there. So everyone's
Mhm.
like, this place seems haunted as fuck.
Yeah.
Um, so who knows, man?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh.
and then our last stop is Florida. So there are a bunch of them on this list, and I'm just going to go kind of quickly. I think one or two of them we may have referenced before because we did, I
Mhm.
think, a haunted forest episode or haunted hikes.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm just gonna, they're pretty brief, so I'm just gonna cover all of them. This is the one I'm like 90% sure we've covered. Ocala National Forest in
That
Florida.
sounds really familiar,
Yeah, yeah.
but
So
I can't
it's
remember.
like, yeah, it's like swimming, paddling, hiking, bike riding, horse riding, camping. It's like this like beautiful like wooded park area.
Mhm.
Um, but there's a bunch of really weird shit that has happened there, including just like not some otherworldly stuff or allegedly, but also just like worldly stuff.
Mm.
So Christine Wiles was a 41-year-old who went missing in 2007. And her car, a 1995 Chrysler, was discovered with a pool of blood, but her
Mm.
body was never found. And so they've actually called in a psychic to try to help solve the case, but it's
Mm.
it's a cold case, I think. This
Yeah.
is the part that I'm certain that we've referenced. Mud Lake is an area within Ocala National Forest. And I wonder if
Mhm.
maybe one of us actually did this on the Haunted Water episode. But no, I guess we
Yeah.
didn't because we broke it
Is
up
it
into domestic and international, but I can't remember when we would have referenced it. Anyway, if
is
I'm
that the one with
repeating
the
myself, I'm
lady, like,
sorry. Yes.
pulling?
Mm,
Yeah. I think
yeah.
that was the haunted water one. I think
Haunted
you did
Water,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it was. Yeah, so in Mud Lake, people say like just maybe don't go there and definitely don't go there alone.
Mhm.
Because this entity likes to choke people who come close and
Oh
drag
god.
them into the lake. So like seeing hands rising from the water, or hearing like faint footsteps behind you, really
Mhm.
creepy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. The next one is Tate's Hell State Forest in Carabel, Florida, which, like, dude,
Hell
aptly named, I
State.
guess. Hell
Mhm.
State. Um, so it's like miles and miles of scenic rivers, streams, creeks. There are a bunch of like park areas, camping areas. You can canoe and go fishing and stuff. You can hike. There's a there's like a dwarf cypress grove, I guess, which sounds like it would be probably spectacular.
Mhm.
But after nightfall, it is like not a good vibe. And it
Mm.
said that I don't know how to pronounce his name. Cebe Sibe Tate of
Yeah.
Sumatra, who's the original owner of the land, has been known to emerge from the swamp.
Yikes.
Like,
Swamp
no.
monster.
Literal swamp
Hmm.
monster. So legend has it that he went missing in the swamp in the late 1800s, wandering aimlessly for days with a high fever and a snake-bitten limb.
Oh.
Though he did make his way back alive, his spirit will make sure you don't. So
Oh.
the way he comes to, the visual, I guess, is this like white-haired, emaciated spirit. And you
Yikes.
hear this like sinister sounding laugh echoing through the forest, and then he appears.
Oh
And
God.
the it's believed that his MO, I guess, is to drag you to hell. So
What a
cool.
nightmare.
I know.
Wow.
It's lovely. What a sweet guy, Just like
Yeah, he's
just
just
a
a
teddy bear,
stand-up
really.
a
A
stand-up guy.
stand-up ghost. God damn it.
Wow.
Um, okay, the next one is Apple Appalap Apalachicola.
Oh.
Have.
Uh-huh.
Apalachicola, a
That's a lot
national
of
forest in
syllables.
so many syllables in Bristol, Florida. It's the largest forest in Florida, and it's a national park. It's home to the unusual Leon Sinks and Appalachie Savannah's Scenic Byway. So they're just like landmarks, I guess. Um, People love hunting and fishing there, but it is not somewhere that you want to visit alone. One of the most common, I guess, paranormal encounters that a lot of people have reported, hiking specifically the Bradwell Bay, Florida Trail. There's a little boy who's swimming in the water, and they say, do not approach him in all caps. Avoid
Yikes.
eye contact if you'd rather not begin bleeding from your nose as you try to run away. Um, Apalachicola National Forest also has black-eyed children
Oh.
allegedly lurking under the pond cypress domes.
Oh
And
God.
most campers claim the children would extend their hands while silently screaming before trying to drag them into the swamp.
Whoa.
That is literally something out of a horror movie.
Yeah, it
I mean,
is.
that is horrifying.
Truly.
Silent scream, just like mouth wide open, no
Oh,
sounds coming out,
yeah.
hands out to grab you and drag you into a
Mm,
swamp.
no. What
No,
an
I'm
image.
good.
Oh
Hard
God.
pass.
Hmm.
Hard pass.
Yeah.
Okay, next is Osceola National Park and Forest in Lake City. Again, camping, boating, water skiing, swimming. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, beautiful.
So
It has,
fun.
yeah, it has all these like gorgeous trails, including the Florida National Scenic Trail, which are it's like a top rated hiking trail, I guess, like across the state for sure, and even the country.
Mhm.
Um, but there is a part of the park called Alesti Battlefield that is said to have seen the deaths of like more than 10,000 or around 10,000 Confederate and Union soldiers. And it's believed that the battlefield is haunted by some of these fallen soldiers, and they're super violent.
Oh.
While riding a horse, a reenactor was tripped and assaulted with a rifle butt, but
Hmm.
there was no one there. Like it was like
Wow.
there wasn't someone else responsible who was also a reenactor. Like there was
Yeah.
no evidence of it.
Wow.
And there's stuff like this that happens all the time on the space. So it's like maybe stop doing reenactments there. Just a
Yeah.
thought.
Probably a good
Just a
idea.
thought. Yep. Blackwater River State Forest in Milton, Florida. It's part of the Blackwater River State Park. It's a very popular outdoor recreation spot, tubing, swimming, fishing. They say absolutely leave the water before the sun sets because,
Hmm.
again, there's a woman in the
Oh,
water who will try to drag you to the bottom.
yeah. That's
This,
one you talked about too.
it definitely is
Yeah.
Blackwater, yeah. So,
Hmm.
one of the lesser known ghosts in the area, the woman in the water, has been described as a deathly pale woman with long jet black hair. The few people who managed to escape her first smell rotting flesh before
Yeah.
she
Ew.
resurfaced and tried to drag them down. And some say it's not limited to the river. A guy's ankle was grabbed from a
Mm.
puddle. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
creepy.
Ew.
Um, there's Belmore State Forest in Stark, Florida. Um, hiking through the forest, many noticed, quote, someone hiding behind the trees.
Mm.
And apparently, legend has it that a man was murdered in the woods by his wife's lover, and the wife, who had enough of his abuse, smashed his face in.
Oh.
And that's
Oh.
why those who come across the ghost never forget his grotesque face and eyes filled
Hmm.
with rage. So, like, his spirit is pretty brutally disfigured.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not limited to nighttime.
Hmm.
He tends to go after women.
Hmm.
Um, as you know, I think he it sounds like he was probably beating his wife, and so the
Yeah.
lover killed him, and then she kind of finished the job, or
Hmm.
they did it together.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one's creepy. But yeah, like people, someone like hiding behind the trees. Ooh, that's just really
Yeah.
creepy. The thought of someone
No.
spying on you while you're hiking in nature is just actually horrifying.
Yeah. In the middle of nowhere, like
Yeah,
not many
F
people
that.
around usually.
No.
Mm-mm.
And like where sound doesn't travel well between
Yeah.
the trees, like no
Yeah.
thanks.
Mm-mm.
Um, Romeo,
He's
Big
devastated.
Shoals, he's literally devastated. So pathetic. Big Shoals State Forest in White Springs, Florida. It's famous for its whitewater rapids. There's also hiking, fishing, hunting, cycling. However, the Forest Service has issued a warning to navigate further away from the shoals, as there is the ghost of a bruised, bloodied woman
Oh.
said to haunt that area. Many rush to save her, thinking she's actually a live human who is, in trouble. Um, only to be trapped by the increasing water levels at the shoals. So then she starts to, people who have gone to help her and have reported this say that when they start to get into some trouble, deep water, literally,
Hmm.
her calls for help turned into screams and laughter.
Oh God. That's so disturbing.
Yeah, and a
Uh,
lot of people have been found like saved by other people, like on the brink of like drowning
mhm.
basically in this area.
Wow.
So to the point where the Forest Service is like, maybe don't go there."
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
When the rangers are saying don't go, that's
Yeah.
concerning.
They're taking it seriously.
Yeah. Okay, there's Cary State Forest in Bryceville. Um, home to several entities, many of which seem to target campers there specifically. And so the campsites are constantly undergoing renovations. And they put that in quotes, which I thought was funny,
Uh-huh.
because there are so many people reporting like kind of like dangerous shit happening there. So like parts of the campsite are almost always closed.
Mhm.
It kind of rotates. So one entity that a lot of people have reported seeing is a little girl. Campers would wake up around like 2 or 3 a.m. and hear a child laughing and see her silhouette against the tent.
Oh God.
And
Yikes.
then she would say, "Come out and play."
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah. And if you reject, she would like attack the tent basically.
Oh God.
So there are people who are thought like it's thought that okay, there were bodies that had been found near the
Mm.
swamps of the Fireline Trail or the Red Root Trail in this area. And it's thought that it's her doing, like that she somehow lured them out or whatever and like basically killed them,
Yeah.
which is so fucking creepy.
Yeah, it is.
Um, there are people who have encountered her and survived, obviously, because otherwise, how would we know?
Hmm.
And there are people who are like completely dazed for like days after encountering her.
Oh.
Others would be like crying and like hysterical, essentially.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow.
Really creepy.
Oof.
Um, two more. Florida is just like jam packed
Yeah.
with scary
It's
shit.
Florida is quite the place. I mean,
Florida
both
really is. I've never been, but
I haven't either, but non-living and living,
uh,
it's kind of
yeah,
weird.
100%.
Hmm.
A man from Florida. Um, Indian Lake State Forest in Silver Springs, Florida. Um, it's really popular for water recreational activities, as well as hiking and horse trails. But it's one of, the most like known haunted forests in Florida. Romeo, you are so intense. Can you? Oh my God. Come here. Do you want love? Like, what do you need? What do you need? Talk to me.
Oh.
Come here, buddy.
Yeah.
We did an icebreaker, quick tangent. We did an icebreaker at a work event yesterday that was like you throw a beach ball and it has a bunch of questions on it, and then whatever your right thumb lands on, you answer the question.
Mhm.
And one of the ones I came up with that I was like very proud of was, would you rather be able to speak every language on the planet or be able to communicate with animals?
Ooh, that is a good question.
Which would you choose? Do you know?
Mm, I think I'd want to speak every language, actually. I think it would be really cool
Mm,
to
yeah,
communicate with animals, but sometimes I probably wouldn't want to know what they were
yeah, that's
saying.
true. They
But
also might be kind of annoying, honestly.
yeah,
Like
like Romeo.
like
Just,
this,
yeah.
literally.
Hey,
He's
hey,
communicating for
hey.
sure. Literally, hey,
Yeah.
hey, hey, hey. Well,
Uh-huh.
for sure, Binks would be like, "Fuck you." Like,
Yeah.
he would
Attitude.
definitely, yeah, he would definitely give me some attitude.
What would you
Okay, sorry.
choose?
I think animals,
Mhm.
but maybe languages. I don't know.
I just think it would be so cool to travel and be
I
able to
know
talk to
to
everyone that you
everyone.
encounter.
Yeah, and to
Yeah.
be fluent, like to
Mhm.
like just know what everyone
Yeah.
is saying.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good icebreaker.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry. So Indian Lake State Forest and Park. If you ever are near Indian Lake in the state forest before dawn, people have seen a white figure make his way towards the water with a baby in his
Mm.
arms, who he lowers into the water and watches as it sinks to the bottom of the lake.
Oh god.
Yeah. And they say absolutely do not make a sound, because people have been found like basically drowning in the lake,
Mm.
like that he
Yeah.
somehow like kind of drags you in there, and there's this like sensation of someone like pushing you down into the water.
Mm.
Yeah.
No.
A survivor claimed that the entity cooed at her while attempting to
Oh
drown
god.
her, and her only savior was the rising sun. So there's something about it like being
Mm.
pre-dawn, like it's really, really early in the morning, but something about like daylight, it's just like, you know,
Yeah.
really
Whoa.
fucking creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and the last one on the list is Tiger Bay State Forest in Daytona Beach. It's home to the wetland Tiger Bay. Again, tons of recreational activities. Camping is really the main issue here. There have been a lot of incidents that have taken place over the years at this location. So, one camper woke up to a pale face with bright red eyes staring down at him from the top of his tent.
Mm-mm.
Another took in a family of three into her tent, only to see them disappear once she zipped the flap up. And it's just like
Oh.
goes on and on and on, like weird shit happening, things going missing. I think like weird stuff with animals. Like it's just all these like feeling watched and even seeing something with red eyes like behind trees. It just sounds creepy
Mhm.
as shit. So
Yeah.
go and do your hikes or your hunting or your horseback riding, but like maybe just don't
Go
go there.
home. Yeah.
Go home. Go
Hmm.
home.
Hmm.
So yeah, that
Yikes.
that's that on that. So yeah, Florida sounds like kind of it ain't it for outdoor
Uh-huh.
recreational activities. That's what
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gleaning.
It's like you can't trust anyone. All of
Mhm.
those were like, it looks like a real person, but don't talk
Right.
to them.
Don't talk to
That's,
them.
yeah, trust no
Well,
one.
and yeah, trust no one, and also like, how fucked is that? Like, what if someone actually was drowning and you're like, it's
Yeah.
probably the
Mm-mm.
ghost?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So fucking
true.
funny, dude.
How do you know?
So funny.
Ooh,
Oh my
that
God.
is funny. All right. Well, shall we move
Your
on?
turn.
Okay.
Heels.
So
I'm gonna mute myself
I
so you don't have to listen to his pathetic line.
sounds good. Okay, so I kept it very local today, and everything I have is in Colorado, which is my home state. And I just have two quick ones and one in depth one. So the first one is Wood Glen Park in Thornton, Colorado. And like I said, it's really quick, but it's creepy. So, um, Thornton is like a hellhole of a town just north of Denver. That's
A hellhole of a town.
that's
Hopefully, no one
probably mean.
listens who's from there.
Yeah, sorry, but it's just like box store after box store. There's no downtown. It's just
Oh yeah.
like sprawl. So, anyway, it's just north of Denver, and I feel like that's the only thing it has going for it is its proximity to the city. But anyway, the origin of the creepiness of this park comes from a prank that went wrong when some teenagers locked one of their friends into the park's public restroom as a joke.
Oh, don't do
Yeah,
that.
so mean. And they must have left him there for a long time because at some point they were gone and a fire broke out and the public restroom building caught fire while the boy
No.
was still locked into it. So he
Nightmare.
sadly, yeah,
Literal nightmare.
I know. And he died in the fire, and he seems to still linger where he died because people have reported hearing someone screaming for help in the vicinity of the bathrooms, which obviously have been rebuilt since this incident. Um, and one site I read specified that that voice yelling for help can only be heard on windy days, which my guess for why that would be is that maybe it was a windy day when the boy died, which could make some sense because fires are more likely to start on a windy day if it originated outside. And it's so dry here that, that could happen. Um, but I tried to look up if there was any record of that happening. I didn't find anything, but that doesn't mean it's not maybe true. So, whatever you want to think.
That's just so sad. I mean,
I know.
Jesus.
It could be an urban legend, but yeah, either way, it's like such a sad, spooky story to make up.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
seriously.
yeah, so next one is another quickie, but I was very intrigued by this one because the headline for the article was Vampire Grave of Lafayette, which we love a
Oh
good
my God.
vampire
We
story.
love a good
Yeah.
vampire.
So, this so called vampire grave is not really in a park, but it's like it shares a border with the Lafayette City Park. So, it's really like where's the park end, where does the cemetery start kind of thing. So, I think it counts. But the headstone for this vampire, it reads Todor Glava, born in Transylvania, died 1918. So,
Todor.
yeah, Todor.
Like Nandor a
Yeah,
little bit.
exactly. Yeah, pretty much the same. So, um, this whole story, I feel like, could be just from prejudice against a totally normal person who happened to
Happens to be
come.
from Romania
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
exactly. And he just happened to come to small town Colorado, where I'm sure there wasn't a culture of acceptance at the time. So,
No.
yeah, but Glava or Todor, he wasn't suspected to be a vampire until after his death when some townspeople dug up his grave. And I don't know why they did that. None of the sources I looked at gave any reason for why they dug him
It seems
up.
like there are very few good reasons to exhume a body.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Like I
like a
wonder if
murder investigation. Like,
yeah.
no, let's not
Yeah.
dig up
No.
someone's remains.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe they were having suspicions or something. Who knows? But um, we are not sure why. But when they dug up his body, they found that he had blood around his mouth and his teeth and nails had grown longer and larger. Now we know that those are normal things to happen
Your
when,
teeth?
uh huh, apparently.
Your teeth grow after you die? That is
That's what they
fucked
said.
up.
But maybe it's like an optical illusion because your skin is
Yeah.
like
Oh,
decaying.
that must be it, because
But
your gums would be receding because it would
yeah,
be drying.
yeah, that's
Oh, okay,
probably
yeah,
what
yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I was
still
like, wait a minute.
creepy.
I don't like that.
No, creepy image. But yeah, like I said, those are normal things. Now we know that. But at the time, those people that dug him up were like, oh no. So they
Oh
um,
no.
they decided to drive a stake through his heart. Um,
Oh
and they buried him
no.
again. So he,
Oh my
at least he was
God.
already dead. But
Yeah. Literally just like fucking desecrated his
yeah,
body. Poor guy.
yeah, I know. Poor Todor. But
Oh, Todor.
now the weird part is that a tree, which is unlike any of them around his grave or in the park, has grown
Hmm.
right on top of his grave plot,
Hmm.
seemingly right above where the stake would have been put. Um, but I'm not an expert, but I don't think trees grow from cut wood. I think it
Mm-mm.
has to be a seed. But
Let's look.
yeah, I should have looked that up. Because that is intriguing if it's just
Hmm.
a random different species of tree.
Yeah. So a tree can grow from a cutting, but you
Mhm.
can't, like, it's not, it wouldn't work like that. It doesn't seem like. I mean, I guess maybe if, maybe if like, because you could, you can propagate things,
Mhm.
but obviously the stake wouldn't have like a root.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. That this is kind of mixed because most like
Mhm.
tree cuttings will then be put onto another living tree that's already
Right.
planted,
Yeah.
or put into like water, and
Mhm.
sometimes it'll kind of come back from that. But maybe something to do with like his decomposing body acted like
Yeah.
fertilizer or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That seems really weird.
Yeah. It is weird. And yeah, I don't know how to explain that.
Mm-mm.
But also, there are red roses that have sprouted up around his gravesite, also for unknown reasons. So something
Hmm.
special is going on there.
Yeah,
Um,
that's weird.
yeah. And maybe this comes from just the hype surrounding this story, but people have also said that they've seen a tall, shadowy figure near the gravestone, sometimes sitting on
Mm.
the gravestone, who they'll see 1 minute and then he's gone the next. So
Ooh,
I don't know. Um,
maybe he actually is a vampire.
yeah, yeah. The only thing that gives me pause about that is if he was a vampire, he probably wouldn't have been there at all anymore. But,
That's true. He would have
you
left. Or maybe
know,
he's just like waiting for like the descendants of the people who, the
yeah.
villagers who wronged
Oh,
him to come back and take
yeah.
his revenge.
You never know. That's a good
Very
theory.
a vengeful Nana.
Yeah. Vengeful Nene.
Vengeful Nene.
Yeah. So that's maybe the vampire. And now this last one is the little bit longer one. So this is Cheeseman Park in Denver,
Yeah.
Colorado. And this park, I lived just a few blocks away when I lived in Denver. So I'm very familiar with it. And before becoming a park, Cheeseman Park was Denver's first cemetery called the Prospect Hill Cemetery. And
Mm.
before the 1860s, Denver was basically a small town, but as with a lot of places in the West, the gold rush turned it into this booming city. So, with more and more people moving in, and the area of the cemetery becoming this important residential area of Denver, they
Mhm.
decided to relocate the cemetery away from downtown and turn it into a park. But what do you do with the 5,000 plus bodies that were buried there is the important question.
Oy.
So, what they did was they gave individual families who had loved ones buried there a few years to move their loved ones out. But a lot of people buried in that cemetery were criminals and vagrants and just generally people who didn't have anyone who would come move their body. So
Mm.
at that point, the city of Denver had to enter a contract with an undertaker to remove all the other bodies for a dollar and
Dude.
90 cents per body.
Ah, God,
Yeah,
by the body? Come
yeah,
on.
paid by the body. Um,
Ugh.
yeah. So unfortunately, this undertaker was terrible and shady.
Oh no.
Um, he figured out that if he cut up the bodies and put them in smaller child sized coffins, he could make double or triple the money because he was turning one body into multiple.
That
Um,
is so
Sickening.
disgusting.
Yeah.
That literally made like my bile ducts
Yeah.
tingle. Like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah. It's so gross. And it gets worse. So he obviously didn't want to be found, so he was being very hasty about cutting these bodies up, and in the process, tossing limbs and bones all around. And
Ugh.
they, so many bones have been found since then in this park. Particularly in the 1960s, when they were doing a lot of work on the park, they found a ton of skeletons. And I found an article from 2010 that some irrigation workers were digging and they came across 4 or 5 skeletons, but the bones were all mixed up. So it could have
Mm.
been because of that undertaker who was doing that. Um,
Gross, dude. So fucking
yeah,
gross.
it's disgusting. And um, in addition to being disgusting, he also didn't do a very thorough job. And maybe that wasn't his fault because a lot of people were buried there in unmarked
Yeah.
graves.
Mm.
Um, so they estimate that around 2,000 people were probably never moved. So those remains are still underneath the park.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And so I knew about this history of the park because they have informational signs there.
Mm.
But for some reason, when I was reading this earlier, I just had such a strong mental image of all the times that I sat in the grass at that park, and there were probably like bodies 6 feet
Oh
below me,
God.
which, yikes. But
So disgusting, dude. Oh
yeah,
my God.
I mean, at this point, they're just bones, so maybe that's better, but
Yeah, unless it's
still.
haunted as fuck.
Yeah, yeah. Which, here we go for hauntings there.
Oh
Um,
God. Oh, we're
one,
not even into the hauntings. You're
no,
right.
not
Wow.
yet.
Okay.
Yeah, not yet.
Shit.
That was just the backstory.
Oh
Um,
God.
yeah, so for the
Just
hauntings,
hastily chopping up
yeah,
bodies. Like, come on,
disgusting.
dude.
I know, so bad. um, but let's see. So, one article mentioned that people have had sensations of overwhelming sadness and anxiety when they walk
Mm.
into the park. Some have had the feeling that when they lay down on the lawn, it feels like they're being held down by something and it's hard to get up.
Oh.
There have been a few cases of apparitions there, including a singing woman and playing children, as well
Mm.
as the sound of a bunch of whispering voices when there are no people around.
Mm.
So, personally, I always enjoyed going to this park, but there was one night that I was riding my bike home,
Hmm.
and it was going through the park was the fastest way to get there, and it was after midnight, which in one of yours it was like, why are you going to the park after midnight? But
Yeah,
that was
like
me.
stop it.
Yeah. So I was there, and because it was late and I was alone, I was probably on edge anyway. But
Right.
as soon as I got into the park, I just had this really strong sense that I was being watched.
Mm.
And it that made me, of course, like ride my bike like the wind. So I was
Yeah.
going super
Speed
fast.
racer.
Yeah. Um, but I had that sensation of being watched the entire time. And this park is probably half a mile from end to end.
Uh,
So even if it was a real person who was watching me, they wouldn't have been able to watch me from one end of the park to the other. So
yeah.
I don't know if that was ghosty or if I was just, psyching myself out, but
Yeah.
still, knowing the history of the park could very well be. But
Ugh, I bet I don't
the
like that one bit.
no, it is spooky. And the last things I have to say about Cheeseman, in my typical fashion, is a tangent, but um,
I love it.
it's very creepy. So there was a house. I don't know when it was built. It's since been knocked down, but it was right on the northern edge of Cheeseman Park. And it was the inspiration for the horror movie The Changeling that came out in the 80s.
Oh,
Have you seen that?
I haven't, but I know of it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I obviously haven't seen it, but I when I was reading about this, everyone was talking about how it's like a great film, um, for a lot of reasons. But anyway, um,
Yeah.
in the movie, the house that it's that it takes place in is called
Mhm.
Cheeseman House, so it's definitely
Oh, it's a
um,
nod.
a nod to the park. So
Interesting.
Um, yeah, so here's the backstory. In the 1960s, a musical arranger named Russell Hunter moved to
Hmm.
Denver from New York City to help his parents manage the lodge that they owned. So he rented this home that we're talking about on the edge of Cheeseman
Hmm.
Park. And
Okay.
on February 9th, 1969, he had the first of many unexplained incidents in the house.
Oh,
So, first, there was the quote, unbelievable banging and crashing that occurred
oh
every
God.
morning promptly at 6 a.m. But it would stop as soon as he got up to try to investigate. So he wrote, as soon as my feet touched the floor, it would stop.
Oh,
Um,
that would just be crazy making.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. That would not even just be scary, it would just be so annoying.
Yeah, so annoying.
But um, then the faucets began to turn on by themselves, doors would open and
Lovely.
close on their own, and the walls vibrated so violently that paintings would fall off of them. So,
Jesus.
yeah. Eventually, Hunter, this musical arranger, and a friend of his discovered a hidden staircase in the back of a closet that led to
What?
yeah, yikes. It led to a third floor of the house, and in there, Hunter found a child's trunk containing books and a journal from the late
No.
1800s. So it was like over 100 years old.
Oh
Um,
my God.
yeah, and in the journal, this little boy had written a little bit about his life and how he was kept in isolation. He seemed to be disabled. And
Mm.
in the journal, the boy mentioned that his favorite toy was a red rubber ball. And sure
Oh,
enough, a few nights
banging.
later, a red rubber ball appeared in the house, um,
What?
inexplicably. So
Oh, that gave me a
I know,
chill.
me too. Yeah. So
Ooh.
yeah, to learn more after they discovered this, he decided to conduct a seance, which apparently revealed that this boy's story was that he was the heir to his grandfather's fortune.
Mm,
But he was disabled and sadly he
right.
died young, and
Oh,
his parents worried that if he died, that would mean they wouldn't get his inheritance. So
awful.
when he did die, they decided to bury him under the house in secret.
Mm,
And then they adopted a boy from an orphanage that
no.
bared a close enough resemblance to their son that he could pass
Yo,
as
that's
still being him.
fucked up.
Yeah, yeah, yikes. And that is why he called it the changeling, I guess, because it was,
Literally not him.
exchanging
Oh
one for the
my
other.
God.
Um, yeah. But after the seance happened, things got more violent. Like a glass door suddenly shattered, and a piece of glass flew and cut Hunter's wrist. And
Wow.
one night, the wall above his bed like caved in out of nowhere. So at this point, he finally left the house.
Yeah, geez. Took
Yeah,
him long enough.
I know. But he decided to come back to it to watch the demolition of it because they were knocking it
Mhm.
down to build a high rise apartment building.
Oh,
Um,
that great.
yeah,
What?
put more residences above it. Yeah, but
Jesus.
um, of the demolition, he wrote that, quote, as the walls of the wing which had contained my bedroom collapsed, they suddenly flew outward and crushed to death the man operating the bulldozer.
No.
Yeah, it's so scary, this whole thing. Um, and he is
Oh God. Well, I was kind of
insistent.
thinking of the little boy's spirit as being kind of like playful and like not dark, but I mean, yeah, of
Yeah,
course he'd be fucking pissed if you're
yeah,
destroying his home
yeah,
and his burial site.
yeah, that's true too. And probably angry that his parents just replaced him. Like,
Right.
that's awful.
Oh my God.
Um, and yeah, this Hunter, the director, whatever he was of this movie, he is adamant that his story is true and that
Mm-hmm.
this is his firsthand experience that inspired the movie. But of course,
Mm-hmm.
some people have been looking into it, trying to debunk things, but who's
Wow.
to say if it was his
Who's to say?
real experience? How can we say
Wow, wow,
no?
wow.
So,
My
yikes.
God. That's really
But
fucking creepy.
yeah, so that's all I had for today.
Wow.
Spooky.
That was, well, and the fact that like we've spent time in Cheeseman Park is like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, I love that. I
And it's
love
so
that.
nice there. I loved
Oh, it's
hanging
so
out there.
nice.
So,
I went for a run alone there that one
yeah.
day. Like,
Yeah, that's right.
ooh, love.
Yeah.
You've mentioned before a couple times like people feeling watched and stuff like that
Mhm.
there, but oh my God, I had no idea it had like this much depth of
Yeah.
history.
Yeah. I didn't ever know. I knew it was a cemetery, but I don't think they really advertised the part with the guy
Well,
chopping
that
up the
makes
bodies
sense.
and stuff.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
understandably. They're like,
So,
maybe not going to be
mhm.
great for marketing
Yeah.
purposes.
Yeah, especially because
Jesus.
there are weddings there and like people have birthdays and stuff.
Oh my God.
So yeah, maybe best to not know that, but it's still
So
beautiful.
gnarly.
So
So, so gnarly. Wow.
yeah,
Colorado, chock full. Not like Florida, but still
yeah,
chock full of creepy shit.
yeah, it's
Um,
true.
amazing. I really liked this episode. I feel
Yeah.
like this topic was there was so much more than I thought there was going to be
Hmm.
honest.
Yeah,
This was a fun one.
yeah, it was.
Um, amazing. Well, let's see. I was just going to open up our little doc. Yeah,
Yes.
I think this is actually the last of our haunted or spooky summer episodes.
Oh wow, we
This is
did
the
it.
last one because we did it because next week will be the first day of fall.
Oh yeah, that's right. It does
Yeah.
feel like fall here. It's starting to feel like fall.
Yeah.
So, mhm.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm gonna watch Hocus Pocus tonight. We're gonna order Thai food. I'm
Ooh,
pumped.
that sounds really
Um,
nice.
yeah, I am full transparency, very hungover.
Yeah, you need that Thai food.
I need it. I need it.
Hmm.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for listening. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Girls Gone Spooky and email us at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com. And yeah, stay spooky, friends.
Stay spooky. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.